Okay, thank you. I just want to touch a little bit on the beef industry in the United States, its impact on beef breed registries, and then how we may respond to that. Certainly a lot of things have contributed to the successes we've had in the United States in beef production, including introduction of new genetics, research, our education and extension programs, our artificial insemination, embryo transfer, those types of things, the performance revolution, and particularly around the Beef Improvement Federation and what it's meant to the performance revolution in the United States. All those have had a profound impact in the United States on beef production. In fact, cattle sales, $1 cattle sales represents about $5 in total economic value in the United States. We're looking at about, over the 1990s annually, about $30 billion annually for beef sales. You can multiply that by 5 in terms of the impact that it has on our economy in the United States. So it's a significant part of our industry, of the United States economy, and certainly a significant part of what we do. American producers historically have adopted aggressively to changes and signals in the industry. We go back and different things, and we can look and see how they responded. One of those is responding to a demand for beef and red meat. We can see from this graph that from the 1920s through, as we've had an increase in beef cows represented by the blue line there, we've also had an increase in red meat production. But we had significant changes in the 1970s where we saw cow numbers drop and beef production continue to increase. In fact, we saw an increase of about 150 pounds. We can show it the next slide. About 150 pounds increase from the 1970s to today's market per cow unit out there in total production, which represents a lot of that change and diversion that we saw in that previous slide. Certainly genetics and health, nutrition, management, and all those things contribute to what we've done. But I think focus here on genetics over the last 30 or 40 years. The first sire summary was published in 1971 by the American Simmental Association and was followed quickly by basically all the major beef breeds in the United States shortly after that. By the 1980s, early 1980s, most all beef breeds were publishing sire summaries. And an uptake on that was pretty quick from breeders, as we can see from the genetic trends. These are genetic trends that most of you have probably seen from the Meat Animal Research Center. These are from Larry Keene at Mark. And what we can see here is some real changes. I've got trends here for birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, maternal milk. And there's a couple of things I think that we can see here. We can see some re-ranking of breeds. Particularly as we go through these slides, you'll see some re-ranking with Angus. They by far away have the largest performance database, giving them probably the biggest opportunity to make selection decisions and really change their genetic trends, and I think that's evident in these next 4 slides. Something else we can see, if we go back to 1972, for example, here on birth weight, there was about 9 pounds difference in breed means from Simmental down to the lowest of Angus. Currently today, between those breeds, there's about 4.2 pounds difference. That's not including Charolais up there at higher, which I think is about 6 pounds difference between the breeds. So we've narrowed the variation between the breeds for birth weight. We've also seen the same type of thing for weaning weight. Go back to 1972, there's a 50 pounds spread in breed means. Today there's about 33 pounds spread between the same breeds, and all of that included Charolais in this one. We've also saw some changes, some re-ranking of breeds for weaning weight between Simmental and Charolais there, and certainly Angus catching up to Gelbvieh there as well in this particular chart. We're continuing to see that for yearling weight, same type of thing. We've gone from a spread of 74 pounds to 43 pounds today. Angus is now the number 2 breed for yearling weight. In fact, in 2012, they might have actually caught us, or they're breeding pretty close to catching Charolais in terms of yearling weight and growth. So we've seen some genetic trends and changes over the breeds. We saw the same thing in milk from 1990. Last 20 years, they've gone from a spread of 40 pounds down to 30 pounds. So I'll let you all decide what the reason for that. I think really it's a lot to do with their producers aiming for the similar type of market out there and making selection decisions to put themselves in a good marketing position for their product. We can see the results of that, I think, in terms of increased beef production for fewer numbers of cows. So what are the challenges facing breed associations today, and how might we respond to those? One thing we've done is most beef breeds have changed or opted for an inventory-based program. Red Angus was the first one to do this, and they're still there today. And what they basically do is charge an inventory fee for every cow, for every member in their association. Most every other breed has gone to something similar to that. Some have opted for a little bit of a variation. In American International Charolais, for example, we give breeders two different options. One is an inventory-based option. We call that our performance programs. And to be on our performance programs, to turn in a birth weight or weaning weight or any performance data, you've got to be on an inventory system and turn in a cow inventory every year, and there's fees for that system. The other option we call a registration-only system. And that's exactly it. It's a registration only. We don't take any performance data from those producers. They can register cattle as they need to and transfer ownership on those cattle. That percentage of that group is 53% of our membership has opted for the registration only program, our non-performance program, and they account for 8% of our registrations. If we look at our books financially, they account for less than 8% financially to our association. It's the other 47% that accounts for the biggest share of our association, and less than 5% of our membership accounts for 50% or more of our total registrations. And I think we're seeing this across the other associations as I visit with them. They see similar types of numbers. We're seeing large producers get more active and get bigger and control more of our business structure. This graph was I looked at a few years ago because I really began to wonder, okay, what drives registrations in an association, a beef breed association? And we should think that it's really the beef cow industry. We've always kind of thought that, but I don't know that anybody ever really put that graph together. So what I did here, I took the total beef cows in the U.S. and heifers that have calved, representing on one line there, and the other line represents total registrations for the National Pedigreed Livestock Council. Now, what surprised me when I brought these two graphs together on the same chart there, I thought maybe I'd copied the same one and put it on there twice because they're so similar, that we are directly driven by the total beef cows in the United States. Number of beef cows go up, we register more cattle. And what was really surprising to me is that it's by year to year, it's almost identical as we move along. So if we can find a way to increase beef cows, we can increase registrations across the board for beef cattle registrations. Now, what's that mean to us? We had a top of about 47 million cows, I believe it was, that represented there in the 1970s, and about 1 million plus registrations according to the National Pedigreed Livestock Council. Today we're down to about 34 million cows and about 660,000 registrations. So what's that mean to us? The industry needs approximately 400,000 fewer bulls today than it did in 1975. The decreasing size of commercial beef cow numbers is the direct cause for a loss of approximately 430,000 registrations for U.S. beef breed associations from 1975 till today. This accounts for direct loss of income if we put registration dollars to it and consider about half those cattle are paid transfers to about $11 million annually across the beef breeds. Now, admittedly, the two breeds that really took the biggest hits on that are Hereford and Angus. Those two breeds took the biggest hits. The other breeds haven't taken those types of hits as we've basically maintained registrations, but those two have lost some ground. But you can see from that, I think, when we start talking about the services that we're asked to offer to our membership and to the industry, that we're $11 million short than we were 30 years ago. And so we've got to find ways to account for that difference in loss of income and offer more services that's in demand than what we've had in the past. So beef breed associations were in cooperative efforts for a long time with land-grant universities, and was a driving force behind our genetic evaluations. And more responsibility in recent years has been shifted to the industry to support development of genetic evaluation tools and to take on the responsibility of identifying new genetic evaluation service providers. We've done that, and that's been addressed here. The two associations in the United States, the American Angus Association and the American Simmental Association, have both took their evaluations beginning to in-house for their own services. And recently they've expanded and begin accepting other breed associations to become service providers for those. For example, the American Angus Association formed a subsidiary called American Genetics Incorporated that does evaluation for Angus, does evaluation for Charolais, Gelby and Limousine and Cinepol, maybe another one or two smaller ones. But we're beginning to see that cooperation and those changes take place, and who are the service providers in our genetic evaluations, and I think we'll begin to see more. I'm not sure if Bob's going to mention to you about the National Beef Cattle Evaluation Center, development work that's going on there, trying to come up with a way that breed associations become more actively involved themselves in their genetic evaluations. So data complexity is compounding, and we spend a lot of time as breed associations, trying to get our data together and do a better job of getting data, and that's becoming a bigger issue as we're collecting more information, we're collecting more data on more traits, and managing that data is becoming a more complex issue. We're also faced with, and I like this quote from Dr. Mastall at Georgia, that the question of whether to use genomic information is now being replaced by how to use it efficiently. And I think that's very true, and we see that in this conference here. So we're faced with that as breed associations, also trying to handle the additional genomic data. This one, Allison, I like this slide better maybe than the one you had, but it shows the same thing. A decreasing cost. This is from the National Human Genome Research Institute, their website, and it shows the decreasing cost in sequencing from about $100 million back in, what was that, 2001, to today it's less than $10,000, and we're likely to see, and I think you mentioned even $1,000 in some cases. We saw really a drastic drop in the cost of that. What that's allowing breed associations to take a more active role in collecting this information and using this data that we, just a few years ago was not an option for us. This slide here represents the breed associations relative to each other in terms of size. Of course, the American Angus Association is the largest. You can see the other breed associations represented there. So what we've got here is we've got disparate data sets that are all intended to do the same thing. They're basically copies of each other, trying to do the same thing, collect the same information, report the same types of genetic evaluations, but they're all disparate. They're all singled out, trying to do the same thing. So we need to find ways, I think, that we can find cooperative efforts to bring those things together and do a more efficient job. So in summary, I would say that we need to continue to measure, report, and expand and capture phenotypes for existing and new traits that will keep our industry competitive. We've also got to support research and education initiatives, especially in the United States, so we begin to see, and probably globally, as we begin to see less support publicly for our research. So we've got to support research and education initiatives into technology that addresses sustainability, efficiency, production, and healthfulness of beef to better characterize the genetics of our beef populations. We've got to also identify and adopt synergies between associations, between researchers to reduce duplication, both domestically and internationally. I think one thing we don't want to do is miss out on opportunities where we fail to cooperate, like the folks here on the slide, fail to cooperate, and they missed out on a good opportunity. We don't want to get caught in that trap. So I think as we move forward, and I appreciate the conferences like ICAR, we really talk about getting together in cooperative efforts and find ways that we can help each other and each of us accomplish our goals within our own countries to become better beef producers. Thank you.